Very best of morning to all. Today we'll be moving to the part 3 of our 6 series session. Today's session will be an intro to CSS. The title sponsor is Live Long Wealth. Today's agenda. Today we'll be having 3 chapters. The chapter 1, the basic CSS, chapter 2, the intermediate CSS, and chapter 3, the advanced CSS. Everyone should know the basic CSS for styling their web page. The course prerequisites. Stop here and check for these requirements. You should watch the session 2. Without knowing HTML, it will be a bad investment of your time. Watch session 2 before continuing in this session. You need a PC or laptop with Windows or OS X or Linux. You need any modern web browser. It can be a Chrome, Firefox or Safari. And most importantly, you should have a pen and notebook. Make sure that you have good internet connection, and if possible, watch the videos in 720p itself. Let's jump into the course. Chapter 1, the basic CSS. The contents of this chapter are Intro to CSS, Types of CSS, Font CSS and Border CSS. We'll be moving forward now. Intro to CSS now. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. HTML provides a way for describing the basic structure of the web page, and CSS helps in styling those web pages. CSS is used to control the style of a web page in a simple and easy way. Before CSS was used, it was very tough to provide any styling to the web page. At that time, the web page will be looking just like a Word document without any extra styling. The CSS follows the box model, and CSS describes how the HTML elements are to be displayed on screen. CSS follows the box model, and CSS describes how HTML elements are to be displayed on the screen and in other media. Generally, CSS helps us in distinguishing our style from a mobile platform versus a desktop platform. We have many frameworks for that. The most well-known framework for cross-platform styling is Bootstrap. CSS saves a lot of time. It can control the layout of multiple web pages at once. If you are having an external styling sheet, and if you make changes to the external styling sheet, one change can reverberate changes in multiple web pages at once. The external style sheets are stored in .css file. Most importantly, each declaration includes a CSS property name and value. Property name and value separated by colon. A CSS command starts with /* and ends with */. It's like any other well-known programming language, and it's not different like HTML. The comments can also span multiple lines. Coming to the section 2, types of CSS. There are 3 ways of inserting a style sheet. Type 1, inserting as an external sheet. This is the professional way of doing styling for a web page. And with an external style sheet, you can change the look of an entire website by just changing one file. Okay, we will see an example of external style sheet. So if you go to the CSS folder, you can see that style.css is an external file, and we'll try to open it. And this helps us in providing the external styling, and normally it is used by professionals. And this is an example of external style sheet where we'll be writing the CSS styling in an external file rather than in the web page itself. This external CSS helps in maintainability of the web page, as changes made in one end will be reflected back in the entire web page. An internal style sheet may be used if one single page has a unique style. Internal styling is given in the header section, head, and you can give the styling here, style CSS, and inside this section you can give the styling, property name colon value semicolon. So this is how we provide the styling to the web page. So inline styling. An inline styling may be used to apply a unique style for a single element. In our most cases, we will be using inline styles only, as we will be working with a lot of templates instead of developing the template from scratch. To use the inline style, add the style attribute to the relevant element. So here is an example of inline styling where h1 tag is styled where style equal to color, property name is color, value is blue, property name is margin left, value is 30. Let's move to the next section. We will be jumping to the real CSS now. The CSS font property defines the font family, boldness, size and style of text. Using CSS we can set the font of the text. Let's have a sample here. And for this, for most cases we'll be using only the, so let's start with h1, hello world. By default it will be looking like this. Now we will add styling to it. Style proper style attribute, in that property name is font family, font family Vardhana will check, semicolon, property name colon value and semicolon. Now we'll see the difference. See, we have changed the font of the web page. Now if you want to change it to something different, let me think, Helvetica. Now you can see it's far better than our general hello world. Okay, so we have changed the font of our text. Now we will be using the font style property. The font style property is mostly used to specify italic texts. This property has three values. One is normal, italic and oblique. So we'll try that. Font in that we'll be giving normal. In normal it will be looking exactly the same, but if you want to make it italics, keep italic and just, now it's leaning. The third property which is available is oblique, which is exactly same as the italics, but there is some higher priority for oblique. Now we'll be moving to the third property of font. Now we'll be moving to the third property of font size. I want to increase the font of this h1 and the current font size is not enough for me. In that case, keep font size, property font size, value we can set 50 pixels. Save it. Now you can see the size increases. In this way you can change the styling of the web page. In case if you want a bigger hello world, then keep it as 120, 150. It's your choice. The font size property sets the size of text. Being able to manage the text size is very important in web design. Now we will be moving to the border property. It is very important knowing how the border works. For that case we will be creating an imaginary box div of division. Helps us to create an imaginary box. Div implies imaginary box. So we'll be creating imaginary box of width 100, width 75 pixels, height 75 pixels. So we have created an imaginary box of width 75 pixels and height 75 pixels. We have created it. Since it's an imaginary box, you won't be able to see it. But we can add border to that imaginary box using the styling property. Styling attribute. Style border. The CSS border property allows you to specify the style, width and color of elements border. The border style property specifies what kind of border to display. The following values are allowed: dotted, dashed, solid and double. Okay, we'll check every case. We'll check every case. Border style solid. Again, this will give a hello world. We'll copy 3-4 times. So we got an imaginary box and the border style is solid. Now we will check for dashing. Dashed. Now we got a dashed border. Other is dotted and double. We'll check that. Dotted. We got a dotted border and double. Border style double. Now we got a double lined border. So border style is used to specify the border for the element. If you want to add a border to this element, we can add it. Border style border style is solid. Close it. If you check now, we'll get a border around the h1 element. Okay, got it. So next property is border width. You can set the width of the border. So for that, border width property. Border width. Border width you can set as 10 pixels. Then it will be a very big border. And we will make it as solid. Now we got a very big border. The border width property specifies the width of 4 borders. The width can be set as a specific size. The third is border color. The property used to set the color of 4 borders. Okay, now we'll be setting the color of border. Border color. The border color to sky blue. Sky blue. So okay, got the point right. Border style is used to specify the style of border. Border width is used to specify the width of border, and border color is used to specify the color of border. Now we will be moving to the chapter 2, the intermediate CSS. The contents are padding, margin and background. Let us move to the 2.1, padding. The CSS padding property are used to generate space around the element. Very importantly, you have to notice the point you have to notice is inside of any defined borders. Margin is outside of any defined borders. You should understand the difference between padding and margins. Should understand the difference between pad and margin. Inside any defined border is padding. Outside any defined border is margin. That's the difference between padding and margin. With CSS, you have full control over padding. There are properties for setting padding for each side of an element. The CSS property for specifying the padding for each side of an element is padding top, padding right, padding bottom, padding left. Now we will check how padding works. Okay. So for padding, we'll copy the same text again. Padding works inside the defined border. Padding works inside of any defined borders. Padding generates space inside of any defined borders. So we'll add the styling. Padding 20 pixels. Since it is inside the box, the content inside the border is moved by 20 pixels. Here it is not moved by any pixels, it is aligned to the left corner itself. Let's say you want to pad by 60 pixels. So you are able to move the elements 60 pixels from this side, 60 pixels from this side, and 60 pixels from this end of border. Let's say you want to move only from the left side, then padding left 60 pixels. If you keep that, it will only move from the left side for 60 pixels. See, now you can see that it moved from left side for 60 pixels, but the padding from top is 0, padding from bottom is 0, as well as padding from this side is also 0. So you want to move only the top element. Now it moved from top 60 pixels, and from bottom the padding is 0, from the left padding is 0. Let's say you want to move the text to this end, then you have to keep padding right equal to 0 pixels. No, you have to keep padding left equal to some 90% of the screen. 90% of the screen. And then 80% of the screen. 85% of screen. So you are able to move the page. Hello world to this end now. Now we are able to move the hello world to the right end of the web page. If you want to keep the hello world at center, then keep the padding as some 45%. Then automatically the content of the page will be centered. Okay, that's the idea with padding. Now we'll be moving to the margins. The margin properties are used to create space around the elements outside of any defined borders. Create space outside of any defined borders. Let's say you want to margin it. Margin BR margin some 10%. Now if you see that we have margined the text by 10% outside of the box. If we check for padding, for margins, the changes are made outside of the defined border. For padding, the spaces are added inside the defined borders, and for margin we can see the spaces are made outside of the defined borders. For margin also we can specify for each side of the element. If you want to specify the margin for left, you can keep margin left 10%, then it won't move. Then the margin on the top will be 0. If you want to keep margin on the right side for 10%, margin right 10%. 10% space will be added to the right side of the defined border. Then 10% space will be added to the right side of the defined border. We have margin top, margin right, margin bottom, and margin left. We'll be moving to the background CSS. The CSS background properties are used to define the background effects for elements. The CSS background properties are background color. Background color. Okay, let's have it. So background color. The background color is to specify the background color of an element. Now let us set the color as red. Okay, we need a bit of PR. So we got the background color as red. Will be, and with CSS, a color can most often be specified using a valid color name like red and a hexa value you can keep. Let's say you want to make it as green, and you can give the hexa value also 00f of 00. It will be green. If you want, I mean, you have a lot of customization if you are using the hexadecimal code for each individual color. You'll be able to use 16 million colors. 16 million colors if you are using the hexadecimal. If you are using the hexadecimal notation, decimal notation for colors. And you can specify the background image using background image is equal to url.gif property. So let's check that now. Background image. So we got a background image property, and in that let me check the file name. Section 3 file name is art.jpg. URL ads.jpg. Check now. We got a background image for our imaginary box. If you are keeping none, the image won't repeat at all. If you are keeping it as repeat x, then it will repeat in x coordinates. The x-axis, it will be repeating in the x-axis. If you keep repeat y, it will be repeating in the y-axis. And if you keep just repeat, it will repeat in both x and y-axis. So that's the idea. Okay, leave it. Fine. So we'll be moving to the advanced HTML at this point. So let's move to chapter 3, advanced CSS 3.1, image CSS 3.2, units of CSS 3.3, gradients in CSS. These three are very important, especially image and gradients. If you want to make your website look modern, gradients are very important. Let's see the image CSS. Images helps to improve the look and feel of your websites. In many websites you are able to see the rounded profile pic. Let's see how to make a rounded profile pic. IMGSS. Let me copy a pic of. We can load the image using IMGSS equal to face.png. So if you check now, my face image is loaded. Now modern websites will be showing the face in a square way. So we have to make it in a circular way. Now modern website will be displaying the face images in a square way, in a square fashion, but everyone will be displaying it in a circular box. For example, if you check where we'll check facebook.com, they'll be displaying the image in a circle, right? I mean, in this circle box. We'll try to recreate that circle box now. So okay, so our aim is to create this circle box, and we'll try to do that. Okay, so we got this image. For that, first we have to keep style. So we'll get the style to next line. In the style, border radius, we have to keep border radius 50%. Then it will be circular automatically. Now we got the circular. Now we have to add a white border. Since we are having a white background, we'll be adding a black border to the image. So border style you have to keep. In border style you have to keep solid, and border color you have to set as black. Border color black. Now we'll see. Okay, we'll keep a padding of okay, we'll keep it as double. Okay, and the solid is better. Solid padding of 2 pixels. Okay, we'll change the color from black to some other color. Maybe good web color selector. So we got the rounded image, and it is somewhat similar to this image, not exactly similar, not good as the Facebook one, still it's good enough. How to implement the image in a profile pic view, and you can make responsive images that will automatically adjust to the fit and size of screen. So using max width to 100% and height to auto, we'll be able to create a responsive image. Responsive image will be able to automatically adjust to the size of the screen. In order to center the image, right and left margin to auto and make the element block. So we'll try to make this image centered. So the property that we want to add is centering the image. To center the image, we need to set the display as display property to block, margin left margin right to auto, margin left to auto. Set the width to 50%, then the image will be automatically aligned to the center of the. In order to make the image transparent, you can take the value from 0 till 1. Okay, let's see that. Let's try to make the image transparent. For making the image transparent, you have to use the opacity property. Opacity, you can set any value between 0 to 1. If you increase opacity to 0.3, the image will be less transparent. If you increase the opacity to 0.3, the image will be less transparent. If you increase the opacity to 0.6, the image will be more transparent. Let us start the opacity with value 1. For value 1, the image will be fully transparent. For value 0.5, the image will be 0.5% transparent, and for 0.2, the image will be deeply blurred, and 0.1, the image will be of 90% of initial image. So you can create transparency for the image using opacity property. Lower the value, more transparent it is. For 1, you will get the original image. for 0.5 will get 0.5 50% of the initial image. Units of CSS, this is a fully theoretical concept. It's very important that you know it. CSS has several different units for expressing length. For some properties, negative lengths are also allowed. And for CSS, there are two types of length units. One is absolute and relative. The absolute length units are fixed, and length expressed in any of these will appear in exactly the same size. The absolute length units are fixed, and a length expressed in this will appear as exactly of that size. I mean, this is very important statement. Absolute length units are fixed, and length expressed will be appear in exactly the same size. The sample lengths, I mean the samples units for this lengths are, the sample units for absolute lengths are centimeter, millimeter, inches, pixels, and point pt. Now let's try all this in our first units. Let us change the font size and learn. Okay, font size. So first we'll start normally hello world. This is normal hello world. Now we'll set the unit in centimeter, 10 centimeter or 5 centimeter, 5 centimeter. Now let us move to the second unit, millimeters. Let us give it as 40 millimeters, 40 millimeters. Now the length of each individual character will be 4 centimeters, mean 40 millimeters, which is 4 centimeters, and it will appear exactly of that size in every device. So it's not best to use these kind of absolute units in current web development scenario. There will be a lot type of devices, and we need to have a responsive web page rather than having a static web page. Other is pixels. Pixels are the most commonly used absolute length units. So 10 pixels will get a small text. For 100 pixels will get a bigger text, and for 1000 you'll get a bigger pixel. 1000, the entire edge will be containing 1000 pixels. The entire edge character will be containing 1000 pixels. So we have completed the absolute length units. Now we need is relative length units. The relative length units are better if your potential visitors are using different devices for accessing your website. Let's say they are using your tablet, another person is using a mobile phone, and another person is using a desktop. In that scenario, you should not use absolute length units. You should always use relative length. The relative length units will adjust the fonts according to the device they are using. So let's have a check. Once you are using a mobile browser to access this web page, it will automatically adjust to the mobile environment. I mean, it will automatically adjust to the screen size. So EM is very important. Okay, now let us move to the final topic, gradients in CSS. The gradients helps you to smoothly transition between two or more specified colors. CSS defines two types of gradients. One is linear gradient, another is a radial gradient. And we can create a gradient using background image is equal to gradient function. So big, you got the idea, right? I mean, we'll add a gradient to the text. You need to keep background image is equal to background image colon linear gradient. I mean, no one learns this. I mean, mostly they will copy paste from internet only. Mostly we'll be copy pasting it from internet only. So no need to by heart it and all. Background image colon linear gradient to right, light green to violet. Okay. So violet to indigo. Check now. We got a gradient color scheme. We'll check it with violet itself. Violet. If you check our website livelongtech.com, we created this gradient using this gradient functionally. So this is a far better gradient coloring scheme. So we'll start with blue. We'll go to Chrome, add this color Scylla to your Chrome. Add color Scylla to your Chrome. Then choose this picker. Pick color from page. Pick this color. Copy the color and use it here. And for ending color, pick color from page. Choose this color and keep it here. Now if you save the file and rerun it, we got the exact same gradient schema. In order to change the color of the text, just keep color white. Now you are able to see how the color gradient works. So you got the idea, right, how gradient works. Increase the length, it will automatically adjust to your browser. If it's an image, you won't be able to get this adjustment. We'll be concluding your CSS section now. Thank you and have a great day.